Hello and welcome to the Baby Loss Podcast with me, Gabriella Austin. This podcast is for bereaved parents like myself to share their story around baby loss and miscarriage. Today's episode, Sadie and I talk through our experiences of miscarriage and the devastating effects it has left both physically and emotionally. Many of my new friends I met through a charity called SANS, which is the stillbirth and neonatal death charity. Baby loss is unfortunately more common than people think and certainly more common than discussed. Whilst I would like to raise awareness around this taboo subject, my main aim is to provide parents with a safe place to talk about their babies, wherever they may be in their journey. 2020 was a year like no other. Loneliness set in for many, bringing back feelings and memories of loss. There is no judgment here and every journey is different. Welcome to 2021, where we tell the stories of our babies gone too soon. Trigger warning for this episode: discussion on miscarriage, baby loss, IVF, COVID-19, a brief mention of living children, and contains explicit content.
My experiences was just completely different. So we had a shotgun wedding because we found out we were pregnant. And I'd had some spotting, so I went to the hospital for a scan with my mum, thinking nothing of it. I already had one healthy child, so that was absolutely fine. And then went for a scan with my mum, and they were like, "Really sorry, there's no heartbeat." And we were 10 weeks pregnant, and this was my first one, and I was just absolutely, probably more than any other loss I had, that devastated me. I was just sad. You know what I mean? I was just devastated. It's just, the word devastated doesn't even feel like it covers it. I was just heartbroken. My heart was shattered at that moment. And I remember my mum being there, and just all I wanted to do was phone my husband, and just sitting there in this room. And so much so that I was so distraught, and I was like hyper emotional about the whole thing. And there was like a door to the waiting room I was at Princess Royal at the time, early pregnancy unit, and the door to the scan room was directly into the waiting room. And actually moved the bed and the scanning machine out of the way, and behind was another door that obviously was never ever used, and they ushered me through there, so I didn't have to walk through the waiting room. And up until then the pregnancy was like normal, it was just a pregnancy, and it was just it was just because I'd had a bit of spotting that I went to scan it. I was like literally, I think it was 11 weeks. It must have been about 11 weeks. And then, so there was no heartbeat. And I remember just going, "But I've got to go to work today. I've got to go to work." And my mum was like, "Why do you care about going to work?" I'm like, "But I have to sort out going to work. I need to sort out care for Joey. I need to sort out this. I need to sort out that." And she was like, "Just chill, just calm down." Like, I was just, I was very, very emotional. Yes, I was 21 at the time. But they asked me like what management I wanted, and I was like, what what is this? What? Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea. They're like, "Well, do you want to wait for it to happen naturally?" I was like, "Well, how long will that take?" And they're like, "Don't know. It's based on your own body, you know." And then, unless you want to have the surgical option, I really didn't want to have surgery. And they're like, we can give you a medication and you can come in and then you'll have your miscarriage. And then, so I asked to like go home and think about it. And, if it happened naturally, then it happened naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember going home and like not wanting to go home. I just didn't want to go back there. We had already, started buying the little gifts and the little, already bought a little baby grow and, and started like gathering some of Joey's stuff from when I was pregnant with him together, and getting the baby name book out and the week by week guide and all that stuff. And I had actually been for a scan, an early scan before that. I think I had some spotting before that, and I'd seen the baby and there was a heartbeat and the baby was absolutely fine. It was growing normally, and they'd said that I had a little bleed on the outside of my womb, but it'll probably absorb and it'll be absolutely fine. And so I think it was just because there was no warning. Like I had no idea that anything was wrong.
Yeah.
I ended up going for the tablet, and I bloody wish I never did. It was just, for me, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And so I went in a couple of days later. My body didn't even start the miscarriage process. You take one medicine and then you take one a couple of hours later, and that will start off contractions. And it was just agony. It was just agony for nothing. Do you know what I mean? It was like, why am I going through this pain and this torture? Why am I putting my body through this? Why am I doing this? And they gave me like gas and air and pethidine and all these different concoction of painkillers that just made me feel exactly the same amount of pain, but then massively nauseous. Mm-hmm. It did nothing for my pain, just made me feel sick and horrible. And eventually I delivered my sack of baby into a commode. And that was it. And there was no
Did you look?
I didn't, but Stu did. I wish I did. Why do I wish I did? But I wish I did.
I wish I did too.
I needed that closure. I needed to cast my eyes and know that it was done. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't, and I always wish I did.
Yeah, I think with my TED week miscarriage, the bleeding went on sort of like over a couple of hours, but I didn't once look in the toilet bowl to see if I could see something that was probably not just blood or tissue, but sort of with what I know now, I probably wouldn't have like kept flushing the chain. I would have probably been sieving through it like to see whether I could see anything. Like I don't know what I'm looking for, but
in the bowl.
Yeah. And if I'd been on, obviously one of the reasons you're on the commode in the hospital is just to sort of catch everything and see what's going on. And it, as weird as it, like you said, you don't know why you wish you had, but I wish I had too. But I think we wish we did, because it was still our pregnancy, it was still our baby, it was still the heartbeat that I'd seen. Like I hate. Yeah, I read a woman's story once, and I think I said this to you last time. And her headline for the, like the article, whatever that she'd written, was "I had a miscarriage and flushed." And like, I remember thinking like, oh no, that's what I had. That's what happened to me. But I can't tell anyone that that's what I did, because why would you do it? But you're not thinking about it because you're just bleeding and you're flushing the chain because you need to get to the hospital. And like I said, now it would be different. Yeah, I'd be looking through to see what I know now.
Unusually, they actually asked me if I wanted the fetus tested, even though it was only my first miscarriage. They asked me if I wanted it tested for any genetic, reason for my miscarriage. And I agreed, and I said yes. But the results, they said, well, we don't know if we got your tissue or the baby's because it came back as normal female, and because it came back as female, they don't know if it's mine. If it came back as normal male, they'll know for certain that it was, definitely a normal boy. When it comes back as a female, they can't guarantee that it's not the mother's tissue. So I will never know if it had the same condition as my others, but I still like to think of her as my girl.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing. And that I kind of knew, like, it was quite a high chance.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
That was your little girl.
My little girl. We did actually name her, even though, like, she wasn't even, 12 weeks yet. She was, but because we knew she was a girl. And the thing is that with all of my boys, I have always known I'm having a boy. I've just known it. And when I found out I was pregnant with her, I said, Stu, I think this is a girl. I think this is a girl. It doesn't feel like my pregnancy with Joe. I think this is a girl. So that was only 2 weeks after I had our shotgun wedding, which was not exactly the wedding that you dream of. I tell you that now. We'd always promised ourselves that we would do it again. We've been married for 12 years now. We still haven't done it again. So, maybe at a big anniversary, maybe like 25 or something. We're halfway there. But we started trying again straight away. We lost the baby in the March. So we found out we were pregnant in January. We got married in February. And we lost the baby in March. We tried straight away to get pregnant again. And it was every month was just, is this period or is this pregnancy? Is this period? Is it pregnancy? Just over and over again. In the September, we found out that we were pregnant again. And then in the December, just before Christmas, so our first Christmas as a married couple, I had spotting, so I'd gone for a scan, and they couldn't find a heartbeat again. So this time is at East Surrey, and I said I definitely did not want the tablet. So I went for the surgical management, or what do they call it at the time? ERPC, early removal of products of conception. One of those acronyms. I just so happened that when not long after we had got pregnant the first time, Stu's ex-wife also got pregnant. And so when I was having my surgery, I think she was in labour with her child, which you know what? They have a really amicable relationship, but it was so Stu's got a son from a previous relationship, and I've got a son from a previous relationship. So it was like giving the brother a sibling. So giving Harrison a sibling when we were supposed to be giving a sibling first. I know it sounds like so petty, doesn't it? But
no, it
to me, it made a big deal to me. And also, Stu's brother had also got pregnant around the same time as us, and Betty, that we named her, was due in September. And on the 25th of September, Stu's brother's wife gave birth. And then in the September, it was kind of okay because I'd found out I was pregnant, so it didn't hurt so bad. But then when I had the miscarriage in December, when Stu's ex-wife was having her baby, that stung. And then we got pregnant again. And then, the same old story. Get spotting after a few weeks, and they would do a scan, and one day there'll be a heartbeat, and then next there won't be. And so, as this was my third, even though the test results on the first came back as normal, they said they would start testing us on my third miscarriage, and they would test me and Stu. I had another surgery. To be quite honest, because I ended up having 3 surgeries. So one in December 2009, and then the next one must have been like June 2010, and then because there was like a 6 to 9 month gap between each of them. And so they all kind of merge into like one. Like I just remember like waking up in the resus rooms and people giving me drinks and me feeling groggy and feeling like, why the fuck is this happening? Why the fuck am I here? I don't want to be here. I don't want this situation. It's just shit, and I hate it, and I feel like crap, and I don't understand why this is happening. And so when they started doing tests, I remember wanting so desperately for them to find out a reason, and wanting them to find out why my body wasn't holding my babies and wasn't looking after them, wasn't growing them, and what could I do? Each pregnancy they were giving me baby aspirin, or they were giving me vitamins, or they were like keeping an eye on me, and I can't, apart from Betty, I don't even remember the gestation of the other ones, the 3 after her, because they literally blur into one big horrible nightmare, just one after another. It was when we were pregnant with miscarriage number 4 that the doctor called me up and said, well, all your test results came back from all your genetic testing and for all your scans and everything to find out why you keep having miscarriages. And everything's come back as completely normal. So don't worry. If you keep trying, you will have a baby. It's absolutely fine. Just don't worry. If you just keep going, you'll get there eventually. And I remember putting down the phone and just actually being a little bit gutted that there wasn't a reason why I was having these miscarriages. And I was currently pregnant with the 4th one, and just going, like, thinking, okay, well, at least there's hope. But I just really wish I knew why. And literally 5 minutes later, she called up again, the gynecologist consultant woman. And she was like, I'm really sorry. I know that I said all your test results are normal, and they are. But your one blood test that your husband has come back abnormal. So I had so many scans, so many tests, internal examinations, scrapes, swabs, you name it. I had it. They did the works to me and everything came back normal. My husband literally had one blood test and it came back abnormal. And it showed that he has this condition called balanced translocation. So he has all the right genetic material, but 2 pieces have swapped places. And that means that when we conceive, if one of the swapped pieces gets sent over, our child has too much of chromosome 18 and not enough 11, or vice versa, too much of 11 and not enough 18. And so we found out our reason. And then I remember being gutted because you can't do anything about your genetics. You can't fix them. So I know the reason. And one, it's not me. And that actually makes me feel crap because I know the amount of guilt my husband will carry. And I know that he's going to think that I think it's his fault. And I know that I don't. But to tell him, you know, I had to break the news to him that he has this genetic disorder that he had absolutely no idea about because he's a normal human, healthy man.
Yeah.
So we were sent for genetic counselling,
and also he had his son from his previous marriage. And
like at first we were told that there are 4 kind of outcomes from a conception. One is that it gets the too much 18 and not enough 11. The second option is too much 11, not enough 18. The third option is the same translocation that Stu has. So the same genetic material in the wrong place, but the child would be like Stu and completely normal, and therefore there'll be a carrier. Or the fourth option is a normal child. So we held on to this hope that, you know, it's a 50-50 chance of having a live child at the end of it. And then I did my research and found that when they actually got people with this genetic condition and they looked at their number of pregnancies that they've had and the amount of live births they've had and the amount of miscarriages or stillbirths that they've had, or the amount of disabled children that have been born, that actually only 1 in 10 had a normal pregnancy. And so they actually put it down that it is about a 10% chance rather than 50-50, because although 50-50 makes sense,
yes,
it's not the reality.
No.
So we lost baby number 4 in, must have been October, November 2010. We got pregnant again in the March. That pregnancy resulted in Nathan, who has his own needs. Obviously, no one here knows that Nathan was born with the unbalanced version, so he has more of chromosome 18 and he has less of chromosome 11, so he has Edwards syndrome, and the less of 11 is called Jacobson syndrome. And so he's now 9 years old, but we live with a perpetual baby. He will be an infant forever, basically, just gets bigger, but he can't feed himself. He's, he's wears nappies, you have to carry him. He's wheelchair bound, goes to a special needs school. He's got developmental delay. I'm listing all the bad things. There are way more good things that massively outweigh all those bad things, but it's the reality. And so after when Nathan was about a year and a half, we were told by the genetic counsellor that the chance of us having a child with Nathan's condition again is so small, because Nathan's so disabled that a child with his condition, almost always will end in miscarriage. And it's so unlikely that we will have another child with that condition. And then obviously we had Alexander,
whose story you told last time when we were on here.
I told this story last time, and he's my angel. And it was after we had him and we lost him that we got a call from someone I wasn't expecting a call from. I think it was someone like NHS England or something like that. Was we've heard that you're interested in genetic IVF. Like, I am, but how did you know?
How do you know? Yeah.
And I think it must have been the genetic counsellors, because we had spoken about before we had Alexander, if we wanted to have children again, if that was something that would be considered. We were told that because Stu and I had children from previous relationships, that we weren't eligible for IVF on NHS. After we had Alexander, they changed their mind. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Something to do with, basically, it was cheaper for them to give us IVF than it was for them to manage all my miscarriages. That seems like the way it felt like it was sold to us, to be fair, and I wasn't complaining. So we went down the IVF route.
It turned from you being two healthy people that could create healthy babies to two healthy people that can't. So that's probably what swayed it over, rather than.
And I think with having Alexander, it kind of said to them, that we almost had another child with very serious needs, and I think they could see that we were determined that we were going to have a child,
another baby.
And so I think it was just easier on everyone to
help you.
just give them IVF. We end up doing that. So I have as a baby I had leukemia, so I had chemotherapy. So my ovarian reserve is very poor, so I had to have quite intensive IVF therapy. And I dread to think, I can look back on myself in my memory and watch myself and go, how my husband stayed with me, I have absolutely no idea, because the amount of hormones and medication and just stress it put on us and our relationship, it's not for the lighthearted. It was really, really hard work. And from all that intensive therapy, we managed to get 2 embryos. And so we had them both implanted to give ourselves more chance of having a live birth at the end of it. And we got pregnant, and it was joyful and joyous. And I took the medication that I had to take, which was awful. And I went up to London every single day for blood tests and scans, and they told me up at London for one of my scans what I'd heard so many times before, which is, we're really sorry, but there's no heartbeat. And I had to walk to the train station from the IVF clinic all on my own, get on a train all on my own, just in tears the entire time, come back to Crawley and phone up East Surrey Hospital and arrange for another surgery. This one actually happened to be in Crawley Hospital. Now, this was in 2014, 2015, 2014, 2015, sorry. So it was in 2015. And I had worked at Crawley Hospital since 2008. So I've been working there for quite a long time. And I had to go to the hospital where I worked, which isn't a big hospital, and go to their clinic where they book all the women in on a Friday morning, all at the same time. So all the women know why they're there. Everyone's looking at each other. Everyone's miserable. And bearing in mind that this clinic happens every Friday, I was laying there on the bed all on my own in my surgical gown, just playing on my phone, and a colleague who I'd known for years comes up to me. He's like, "Oh, Sadie, hi, how are you? Why are you here?" I literally didn't know what to say. Did not like. Look around.
You know where I am.
You know where I am. You know why I'm here. And when the penny dropped on him, he was just, you could see he was mortified, didn't know what to say, and just walked away. So that was interesting. I wish I'd never gone to Crawley Hospital. That was a big mistake. I should have just stuck to my guns. But they were like, "Oh, the clinic at East Surrey gets really, really full, and you know, you've got a shorter waiting list." And the thing is that from the point of me finding out on each of my babies that there was no heartbeat to the point that I actually had the surgery or I delivered them was like at least 5 days, if not 10 days, after like the amount of time for me to get booked into a clinic or a surgery, slot. Not once did my body try and do things naturally. Not once. I never ever got like really bad cramps or thought I'm gonna start bleeding. It just never happened for me. My body was just like clinging on to them. And just wouldn't let them go. So yeah, then I had that surgery. And then we were lucky enough to have another go at IVF. Went through all the same treatment again, the really, really intense treatment. And we got just one embryo this time. He's my world now. He's now 4 years old and nearly 5. And so it's been a journey. But it's just so different to yours, and I'm sure it's so different to everybody else's. We are really, really lucky that our second IVF worked. It could have not worked. And I'm on Facebook groups for balanced translocation. There's a lot of women on there who have been in the same situation as me. And some of them, they have run themselves into the ground, searching for that baby. And some of them have had, you know, tens of miscarriages. You know, they've spent thousands upon thousands and thousands of pounds on IVF. You know,
Yep.
some people end up going abroad and doing it over there because it's just, they just can't afford to do it in this country anymore. It's just,
Again, yeah,
it's just,
it's
just a lot.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, I definitely feel, I know quite like, I distance myself quite a lot from it emotionally, like I do Alexander, and I know I do distance myself from those parts of my life. I definitely put them in a box and only let them come out every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that the closest that I've ever got to grieving properly was when we lost that first miscarriage, when I let myself become a hot mess and I let myself go and I became this, you know,
Just
I let
consumed in
myself,
grief. You just let your body, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I've never let myself do that again since. I don't think it helped that my work colleagues were so unsympathetic at the time, because it made me feel at that point that this isn't something that you talk about. This isn't something that is shared with the world. This is a private thing. And you, you know, you pick yourself up and you get on with life because it happens to everyone. And one of the women who I worked with was like, yeah, it happened to me. And I got on with myself. And that wasn't the way that I was processing it. And after that, you know, I held myself together and I didn't let myself cry over it. And the only time I ever cried about it was, you know, when everyone else was asleep and I let myself sob into my pillow. I remember the journey from my house to East Surrey Hospital was literally the worst. I just hated it. I hated that road. I hated the other cars. I hated driving. I know it sounds stupid. Driving around the, like where the petrol station is and driving past McDonald's. I hated it all. I hated stopping at those fucking lights.
Yeah,
Don't know why. I hated that road. I hated everything about it. It never ever brought us comfort. And that even happened after Nathan was born. And then after Alexander was born, it was like there still was never any good on that road. It just, yeah. And every time we drive up that road now, Stu and I like look at each other and we know we're both thinking exactly the same thing. And he was like, this fucking road.
Yeah.
I hate this road.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about East Surrey Hospital.
And it's not their fault. I don't actually hold anything because obviously my situation there's nothing there. Like this is very much, you know, our issue. There's nothing that they could have done. There's no way that they could have. Okay, the bedside manner could have been a bit better sometimes, but
yeah,
just hate that fucking road.
It's just, we all suffer with PTSD. That's what it is. It's, you know, it's just brings it all back, and you're just reminded of the last time or the first time or the third time that you took that journey. 100%. I know exactly how you feel. I can picture the journey from my house to East Surrey of all 3 pregnancies. I never came out happy. I never came out with a baby. I always left the hospital empty and sad, and I hate going there. And I actually had to have some emergency CBT counselling before I went in for my operation, because I couldn't go in there, and then the operation was fucking cancelled.
Like,
Fuck's
that is just
sake. It's just bullshit. But anyway, I can't. Yeah. Anyway, it's not going to be done there now anyway. So all of my, I have to adapt my coping mechanisms and do some more work so I can get to a different hospital where I haven't been before, because my anxiety is just as high somewhere new rather than somewhere I recognise, obviously. So yeah, that's something else I've got to work through. Yeah,
it's a different kind of anxiety, isn't it?
mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
But every time I've been put to sleep, I mean, you know, surgery, it can be scary and is sad, you know, it can be sad and is scary and life-saving. And just for me personally, being put to sleep at East Surrey just reminds me of, you know, oh, I'm here because of, you know, just from complications, just from having that first surgery, has just led on to where I am now. Yeah. Yeah. There's a song by, so yeah, so talking about the road to East Surrey. So mine and Rob's favourite band is Future Islands. Like, genuinely, like, as I fell in love with him, we found this band, and now every time I listen to any of their music, it just reminds me of him and us. And we've seen them. We've been to a couple of their gigs. We went on Rob's birthday, and we met the bassist from the band and all this sort of stuff, and it's just lovely. But they have a song, and it's called Where I Found You. And even though I wasn't in the car with Rob when all of this stuff was going on, because it was all before, when I was with my ex-husband, in this song, the lyrics are, I remember the drive with and without you. And every time I hear that song, it's the drive to the hospital pregnant with Isabella, and then the drive home without her. And it just gets me. But as soon as you said there's that drive to East Surrey, just know exactly how you feel. And those now you're saying it, those fucking lights, and is that my red light, or is that your red light, or is that green? I'm gonna go anyway. There's a bus coming, the bus isn't stopping. Yeah. Someone's beeping their horn at me.
It's gone green, and now I have to drive 2 meters forward and stop again.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We actually usually drive the back way, so we don't have to drive that road.
Well, we do from this house. Yeah, we do from this house now. We drive the back way.
Yeah.
So we don't have to go up there. But yeah. Yeah. It's just affects everything. It just, after all those losses, my anxiety has just been through the roof. I have had counselling to manage it, and I can manage it, but it's there if you let it in, isn't it?
I've had counselling, but it's hard to know which aspect of my life to counsel.
Yeah.
Where start? I think because Nathan is so at the forefront of my life, that's where the counselling focuses. But I think, therefore, actually, the more, detrimental stuff, more than Nathan, is kind of just put to one side.
Yeah.
So, overcoming the miscarriages, and the stress that multiple miscarriages, multiple surgeries, and IVF, you know, has on your body and has on your mind. Yeah, I think those kind of, when I have had counselling, it has all focused on how I manage day to day with Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Never anything else.
No. But you know, I know that we're both extremely busy, but if you ever wanted to talk about any of it, you can anyway. Just give me a text, be like, oh, I thought about Betty today, or I thought about this, or I thought about, you know, just. And if I'm at work, I'll reply 12 hours later, but I'll always reply. always try and reply. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you for talking to me again. I really appreciate it. And listening to me blab as well.
No,
it felt good.
I've loved it.
Thank you so much for finding the Baby Loss podcast and listening to our stories of miscarriage. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast and share your baby's story, or if you would like your baby loss charity featured, then please get in touch by searching Baby Loss Podcast on Facebook, Instagram and my YouTube channel. If you have been affected by today's episode, then please reach out. SANDS can be reached via their website, sands.org.uk, spelt SANDS, their Facebook page and their helpline on 0808 164 3332. If you live in the Gloucestershire area, you can contact Footsteps Counselling and Care by visiting their website, footstepscandc.org.uk, or their helpline on 01452 308618. If you require immediate help, you can call the Samaritans 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for free on 116123. Thank you for listening and see you next time.